Alright, so I am back for part 2 now, and this is the second of my shitty shelves. I'd say the shelf's a little better. There's definitely some movies in here that I actually enjoy for the most part. The other shelf is just my discarded Blu-rays that, like I mentioned, you'd get a 2-for-1 deal at the store that I usually used to go to. So if I would get a good movie, you'd get a bad movie with it. And I wasn't going to say no to more movies. So that's how I ended up with that shelf that was in the last video. But without further ado, let's jump into this. I feel like I should get this out of the way first, because it should have been in the last shelf, but I just bought this 4 or 5 days ago. Star Trek, The Next Generation movies. So I guess I'll just pull these out real quick. You've got like Evolutions, which is just like some sort of hodgepodge of special features and stuff. But you've got all the movies with, what's his face? It's pretty bad that I'm forgetting his name right now. Picard. We got Generations, First Contact, Insurrection, Nemesis. I haven't seen them yet. I know. I'm catching up on my Star Trek movies. I just watched Voyage Home yesterday for the first time, so I'm getting there. Alright, now we're done putting those away. It was a mess. Alright, Jack Reacher. Not a great movie, but I think there's some decent action in this. And if anybody taller and bigger than Tom Cruise is in this, I think it'd probably get some respect. I don't think it's a great movie, but again, take it for what it is. It's an action movie. Taken. The definition of a good action movie, where you can just turn your brain off, watch somebody just go around killing a bunch of people that stole his daughter from him. It's a great movie. It did not need sequels at all. This is like John Wick to me, where it was a really good standalone movie, and that's that. You didn't need to franchise it. Patriot Games. I like Patriot Games for what it is. 90s Harrison Ford action. Clear and Present Danger, I can't say the same for. I can't even get through this movie. They dropped it from rated R to PG-13, or not even, it might be PG, and it just feels watered down and not as good as it could have been. The third Riddick movie, it's not very good, but I don't think it even came in this case. I'm pretty sure I swapped cases with a better movie to put it in this. But anyway, doesn't matter. Not a very good movie. Chronicles of Riddick. My friend bought this as a joke, and he just gave it to me because it's so bad. He knew he was never going to watch it. I just like it for the steelbook. Furious 7. Probably should have been the end of the franchise, if you're asking me, but what do I know? Dropped it. Fate of the Furious. This is one of the worst sequels ever. Like, it really is. Like, Dom turns evil, abandons his family, which is the whole reason he's doing this in the first place, so he can save his family. It's a soap opera. And I get that these movies are stupid to begin with, but this jumped the shark so bad. I just don't know how they're still making movies in this franchise. Fast 10, thankfully, made no money, so they might be slowing down. They had plans to expand this franchise. Fast 6, it's the forgettable one. That's what I always say about this. It's just the one out of the first 7 in particular that just kind of, you forget what happens, because it's just kind of not relevant to anything. Owen Shaw shows up, and that's kind of it. Everything else kind of just, big explosion and tank driving in the street, and there's not really much plot there. I'm not saying, again, Fast and Furious is plot-oriented, but the 5th one, which is there, I have 6 again. 5 feels like a good action movie. It took the best parts of the franchise and kind of combined it, and realistically, when I talk to my friends about Fast and Furious, it's the last one. Like, it's the last one that should have existed if they were going to do this franchise, and they just kept milking it. The 4th Fast and Furious. It's basically a remake of the first one, more mainstream, with more action and kind of less racing. I think there's only one race in this movie. It's alright. It's alright. We've got Tokyo Drift, which is... I like Tokyo Drift. I'm going to be completely honest. I might be one of the only people on this planet that loves Tokyo Drift. But I really do. This is one of those movies that whenever I just need to feel better, I put this on, and I just love that Sean looks 45, and he looks older than his dad, to be honest. And I like Han and Bow Wow's good in it. First and second Fast and Furious, Too Fast in the first one. Childhood movies that I grew up watching constantly, to a point where my family probably hates me for it, but I'm sorry. I picked some bad movies, but I guess the flashiness of the cars, especially Too Fast, with the anime style, really grabbed my attention as a kid. But the first one I rewatched so much I could still quote it scene for scene. Dude, I almost had you. The Social Network. I expected to hate this, and I really did hate the first 5 minutes when I first watched this. I didn't really want to watch the whole thing. And then I gave it a chance, and then it became one of my favorite movies. I just love David Fincher. I really do. I think he's a great director, and this was just a perfect retelling of the events that happen in real life. Really makes you hate Mark Zuckerberg, too. Does a really good job at that. Edward Scissorhands. I want to get around to rewatching this. I've only seen this once, and I really, really liked it, so I first bought it on DVD, and before I even rewatched it on DVD, I got it on Blu-ray, because why would you not want to watch Edward chopping bushes up? That, out of context, sounds brutal. Why would you not want to watch Edward chopping bushes up in the best quality that you can find it in? Dirty Dancing. If you have a girlfriend, if you have a lady of any type in your life, it's probably a good idea to have Dirty Dancing. My girlfriend loves this movie. I even like this movie quite a bit. If you like Patrick Swayze, you're going to like it. And I like Patrick Swayze. And Jennifer Grey's pretty good. You know, this is when she was kind of relevant. She was very pretty, and she was in this, Ferris Bueller, and some other movies. And I like her in this. And I just overall think it's a timeless movie that will move on through generations for sure. Flags of Our Fathers. It's not my favorite Clint Eastwood movie. I watched this with a friend in high school, and I don't know how I ended up buying this or ended up with it. It's probably part of the deal thing for you get a cheaper movie for, you know, buying a good one. But I don't love it. I don't hate it. I love movies about war, but maybe I was too young. I was 17 or 18. Maybe I gotta give it another shot. Ready Player One. The biggest wasted potential movie ever. I love so much about the concept of this, and the book is cool, but the concept of the movie and the execution of the movie was pretty brutal. And we got the most cliche 20th century, 21st century love story type thing ever, and it makes me want to barf. It's so I hate that it was so reliant on past things and didn't give us anything new. Enemy of the State. I pushed this off, and I pushed this off. I bought this around Christmas time. It was a sale, and I just bought a bunch of movies I'd never seen in hopes to get around to watching all of them, and I have now. This was the one I just waited for some reason. It just didn't look like it was going to be that great to me, but I'd heard a lot of good things about it, and I really enjoyed this. So I'm glad I own it, and I'm glad I waited to watch it so I could kind of grow to appreciate it in a way. Red Dawn. I got shafted, so I got the Red Dawn original, but then it gave me the remake in there, which I don't know how that's allowed, but I got shafted. I like the first Red Dawn, the original. It's a good movie from the 80s. Get Patrick Swayze again, Charlie Sheen. Pain and Gain. It's not supposed to be a comedy, I don't think, but it's funny, and there's a lot of stuff in this that I think is hilarious, and I think this is The Rock's best performance. If we're talking straight acting, it's the most he's acted. He's a coked up, crazy guy that's on high alert at all times, and he's cooking people's fingers on the barbecue. That's all you need to. That's the only way I try to get people to watch it, is I tell them that. Independence Day, the best Roland Emmerich movie, and if he made more movies like this, he'd be alright. His movies would have ended up being okay, but then he made Godzilla. We don't talk about Godzilla. I just think this is a perfect blockbuster popcorn movie. Again, another movie I pushed off forever. I don't know, I just got this notion that it was this stupid, and it is. It's dumb. Like, you're not watching this for, oh yeah, perfect scientific accuracy, and no. You're watching this to watch Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman and Will Smith do their thing, and Randy Quaid save the day. White House Down. I can't defend owning this, and I can't defend even liking it, but there's just something about this that I enjoy. Another Roland Emmerich movie where I just turn my brain off. The action's so over the top and stupid. I enjoy it. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Wanted. Another movie that's not very good, and you wouldn't hear me defending my opinion on it anytime soon, but I think it's a fun action movie to throw on every occasion, and I like the concept. There's a lot of movies on this shelf. The concept's cool. Maybe the execution doesn't follow through every time. The Dark Crystal. I love Jim Henson, and I don't know why I just pushed these movies off. This and Labyrinth, I mentioned it in my last video. I pushed these off forever. I just watched this for the first time this week. I bought it, and I just kind of sat on it for a while, and I'm so glad that I watched this. I love it. I think it's great. I'm just upset that I didn't watch this in Labyrinth when I was a kid, because I know these would have been childhood staples of mine that I would have absolutely adored, collected stuff from the movies. Like, I love it. The Road Warrior. So you'll see later on in the video, I have the Mad Max full pack, but I wanted to own this individually because it's my favorite Mad Max and one of the best 80s action movies and action movies, period. I put this in my top 5 behind Point Break, Terminator, and a few others, Terminator 2. But this is as good as it's gonna get. And Mel Gibson was so damn badass back then. Lethal Weapon in this. He was the man. And fuck you, Hollywood, for blacklisting him. We've got Return of the King extended cut. I still haven't gotten through either extended cuts that I own, and I have Fellowship right here, which is not the extended cut, but I wanted to own them each individually in some facet. I have the collection up there, which I'll show later on. Fellowship is by far my favorite. I think it's damn near a perfect movie, and the other two, I enjoy them, but I never have that feeling to rewatch them like I do with Fellowship. I love it. But these two, they're okay. Personally, I think Return of the King is the worst. You know, a lot of people say it's their favorite, and there's just a lot of things I didn't really enjoy about it. Still a good movie, but, you know, like in today's standards, if this came out today, it'd be the best thing ever made, because everything now sucks. Everest, not my favorite, not a very memorable movie whatsoever, but it's got a very loaded cast. Like, you read that cast, and you just expect it's going to be good, and it's alright. I think it is based off a true story, so, I mean, that angle is very interesting. Dallas Buyers Club. I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. It took the subject matter in a different direction. I thought this was going to be a woke LGBTQ pro movie, and it really isn't. You know, he accepts Jared Leto's character, but he doesn't ever stop calling him him. You know, we don't ever lose reality. We stay in reality. We don't go into this new woke age of going on a rant. But I just like that this movie took the subject matter a little more serious than a movie would now, where it'd just be a trans activist movie, and I enjoyed it. I think Matthew McConaughey is a very good actor. Paul, one of my favorite comedies growing up, and I still put this in quite often. The whole Comic-Con scene at the beginning, I just love it. I personally would never have interest in going to Comic-Con. I think they're kind of stupid. But the way that they portray it in the movie makes it seem like a place I'd want to visit every time that I could. It just seems like such a fun atmosphere, and in reality it's a bunch of screaming children and long lineups and $300 meetups and stuff. It's a disaster. Talladega Nights, one of those movies that you come to appreciate with time. It's one of the most quotable movies too. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew, I'll scissor kick you in the head, and you know, what's the other one that I'm really thinking of all the time is Shake and Bake. Shake and Bake Time. You know, there's so many things in this movie that I still quote day to day, maybe not day to day, but weekly, and I think it's better than Step Brothers, which I have right here. I personally think Talladega Nights is the better movie. This got the more mainstream appeal, I think, and more people enjoy this. Not that you have to enjoy NASCAR, I certainly don't, but I think you have to kind of, you know, enjoy that a little more than you can just watch this at any time. It's just two brothers being stupid and doing stupid shit to each other for 2 hours. No plot to this whatsoever, other than they're growing up and need jobs and stuff. But besides that, it's just scene after scene of people being dumb. And I like it, but I just think it's got this reputation for being better than it is. And I have a lot of friends that didn't ever see it growing up that watched it in the last few years, and they don't like it because of that expectation. So, I mean, it's almost to its detriment now. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, one of my favorite rom-coms, comedies, period. I think it's hilarious. And I watched this with my girlfriend a couple weeks ago, and even she liked it. So it's, yes, thank God. You know, there's just some movies that I'd be so upset if she watched this and didn't like it. This is very realistic. A lot of things about this are true to reality, and I enjoy movies that kind of stick to more realistic angles. Like, especially when you're doing something like this. You know, this is kind of how somebody would deal with a breakup. So it's very interesting to watch it all unfold. Spaceballs. This movie's fully reliant on if you like Star Wars or not. So if you don't like Star Wars, or you have never seen the original trilogy, then you won't really understand the jokes or care to understand the jokes. But if you like the original trilogy, this will be one of your favorite comedies, and it's one of my favorite comedies. I grew up watching this all the time. And John Candy was a staple in my household. Him, Patrick Swayze, they're the two standouts. Those movies were always on. The world was never the same, comedy-wise, after Candy passed away. Space Jam. It just brings me back to being a 4 or 5-year-old watching this, sitting on the couch, wishing I was Michael Jordan in this movie, getting pulled into this world of crazy cartoon calamity, and I think it's a great movie. Did not need a sequel. It did not need a sequel. I cannot stress that enough. I don't even know how that got off out of a table read. I don't know how they even decided, we're gonna do this. We're going through with it. Night at the Museum 3. Not a very good movie. I think the highlight's probably Hugh Jackman's 40-second cameo where he bursts out in his Wolverine acting. I don't even know what to call it. His Wolverine shtick. It's the best part of the movie. Other than that, it's really Robin Williams' last movie, I think. One of them. So that kind of goes for something. And besides that, kind of forgettable. The first two Night at the Museum movies. The first one in particular is one of my favorite adventure movies. I don't even know if you'd call it that, but I don't even know what you'd really call it. Comedy, adventure comedy, I don't even know. And the second one, I like it, but there's just some stuff that, it's a kid's movie. I'm not going to sit here and nitpick. They're fun escapism. Good Morning, Vietnam. Not as funny to me as a lot of people say it is, and I went into this again with these uber high expectations. It's kind of let down. And of course, I end up with the shitty version of it. It was $1, but it's all ripped. So, I'm going to have to buy that again someday. Not that I really want to, but I want to come around on that. I really do. Patriots Day, I don't know why I own it, to be honest with you. There's a couple movies here that, Captain Phillips. It's a decent movie, and so is Patriot Games, but I don't know why I own them. They're not rewatchable. I will probably never touch those Blu-rays, ever. So I don't know what I was thinking. Same with Great Gatsby. This in particular, maybe out of the three, I'll think about rewatching more often. I've seen it 2 or 3 times in my life, maybe even 4. Baz Luhrmann, though, his directing style pisses me off. I can only handle it in about 45-second bursts, so it'll take me 3 weeks to get through this movie, minimum. Almost dropped another one. Cinderella Man. I bought this with the intention of rewatching it. It's probably been a year now since I bought this, so I need to get on that. I saw this in high school, and I thought it was really good. I like Paul Giamatti in this a lot, and it really stood out, and I just wanted to watch it again. So I like having timepiece movies from certain eras. Transformers: Age of Extinction. Did you really need Mark Wahlberg in a Transformers movie? Really? Hey, Optimus, what are you doing over there? What are you doing over there, monkey? No. You didn't need that. You did not need Marky Mark. And the whole cast just seems completely all over the place and miscast. The only slight positive was T.J. Miller, who dies 35 minutes into this. Maybe not even. I remember seeing that in theaters, no, the funny guy died? Oh. There's 3 hours, 2 hours left. It's a 2.5-hour movie on top of everything. It's just so ridiculous. Transformers: Dark of the Moon, the second best Transformers movie we will ever get, because I can't see it getting better from here. I know that new animated movie's getting rave reviews, and I don't care. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. I'm dropping movies, man. My hands can't do it today. I think this is one of the worst sequels, along with, what did I mention earlier, Fast 8. This is just a terrible movie in every way, shape, or form. Even as a kid, I could just tell something was wrong. I saw these all in theaters, and I was probably 8 years old when this came out, 8, 9, and my God, I remember the only positive for me coming out was the new blonde girl was a standout. Didn't care about the movie, just the woman. Transformers, the first one, I still rewatch this quite often. My friend and I really enjoy this. We watch this sometimes when we hang out, or we just talk about it, because it's a good movie. And I had a friend growing up who was obsessed, to the point where all he did was collect Transformers and talk about these. So I think it kind of rubbed off on me, and now I enjoy these more than I did growing. I liked them as a kid, but I appreciate, especially this one, a lot more now. Again, with how film has gotten, you just got to appreciate some movies that time has kind of helped age it gracefully. Rush, Drive, and Hit and Run. So I like Drive a lot, and I've talked about that. I think it was in the first part. Rush, it's alright. It's alright. And Hit and Run was Dak Shepard's directorial debut, and it was pretty forgettable. But it was a harmless movie with like Bradley Cooper. It's got a good cast. It's just not very funny, and it just seemed like an excuse for him to drive a dune buggy in a city. Expendables 3. Why do I own these? I own all 3 of them. I guess the real upside to this one is Mel Gibson and Wesley Snipes, but they both don't really do much, especially Wesley Snipes. He just sits there, talking like Blade. Can you give him more, please? He's Wesley fucking Snipes, one of the most badass actors ever, and you just give him a few lines to sit there, talking like that. And then Mel Gibson, and I think Harrison Ford, yeah, he's in this one. So they just tried to shove as many people in that one as they possibly could, because they knew the script was dog shit. We've got the one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Expendables 2, and his name's Villain. Like, they were really trying to nail it on the head. Like, this franchise is stupid. Hope you guys know that. And, yeah, if you didn't already know. There's a fight scene. I believe it's this one. It might be the first one. I think it's the second. It might be, I don't know, because these movies are so forgettable. A fight between Dolph Lundgren and Jet Li that looks so bad. They're fighting in a warehouse, and the editing is offensive, to say the least. You can't see what's happening, and that's the problem with these movies. You know, they might be alright if you could see the action and not, you know, be blinded by the darkness in the first one, which the whole ending's in the dark, and shitty camera work and bad acting. We might end up with decent movies, but, you know, that's asking too much. Especially with the cast you have. I don't know how you fuck those up. Transporter 3. I don't want to talk about these because they're so bad. Transporter 2 and 1. Try rewatching them, and I don't care. They're just not good. I've gotten to the point where my time is valuable. Life is valuable. I'm not going to keep wasting it watching shitty movies. You know, I'm going to watch ones that I know I'm going to enjoy, or at least might have the chance of liking. Crank 1 and Crank 2. I really like the first Crank. Kind of a self-aware movie, but the second one got so self-aware, it's so stupid. You know, like, it is so bad. I've seen some people try to defend Crank 2. It pissed me off the entire time. They're having sex on a racetrack, and a horse jumps over with an erect cock. It's just stupid. It's high school humor. I just wanted a little more. Italian Job. I love it. You know, you can say what you want about it. Seth Green just brings a value to a movie that I can't describe. He makes me happy. I can't explain it. You know, this, Sex Drive, I really like Without a Paddle, the Knockaround Guys. Like, I just find him really likable in everything he's in. And this is when he had a good career going. And then he kind of moved on to Robot Chicken and stuff, and then he stopped making movies, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. Because now we're stuck with people like Mark Wahlberg. Like, who would have thought out of this cast, Mark Wahlberg would be the one to move on and have the biggest career? Not me. John Wick 1. Mentioned this earlier. I think this is the only decent one in the franchise. I wouldn't even say it's good. I'd say it's decent. It's a decent Keanu Reeves action movie, and it was a good return to form for him after a long time of box office duds. But I did not see any potential for a franchise out of any of the first movie, let alone a spin-off franchise where they're talking about shit that has nothing to do with John Wick. It's just about other characters. Walking Tall. It's between this or The Rundown for my favorite Dwayne Johnson movie. Now, I mentioned Pain and Gain's my favorite performance, but straight testosterone pumping action, it's this. He is like his wrestler in this, The Rock. He's just going ham-bony with this fucking wooden plank, beating the shit out of people, and it's satisfying. Mission Impossible Fallout and Mission Impossible 1 to 5. I've talked about this before. I find this to be one of the most forgettable franchises I have ever encountered. I like the third and Ghost Protocol. That is it. And third movie might be the only J.J. Abrams movie I actually like. So that's something. But the first, second, fifth, and I do not really care about Fallout. I like the bathroom scene where Henry Cavill charges his arms up like he's reloading a gun. But everything besides that, not my bag. Not hating if you like them, but not my bag. So that's that shelf, and we will get into some of the better movies. Not some of. We'll get into the better movies. I'll be back. Alright, and I'm back, thankfully, to talk about movies that I enjoy. This is an entire shelf of movies I like. So are the rest. So we are in business to talk about actual good movies, in my opinion, that I could talk about for hours, so we're going to try not to do that because we don't need each part to go over an hour. 40 to 55, maybe close to an hour, but we don't want to go over that. Jumanji. I grew up religiously watching this. This was one of those movies that I'm just so thankful I grew up watching this. I really am. I can't imagine my life without this. Robin Williams, just a gem of a human being. I feel like we all have that feeling. You know, you watch some actors through the screen, him, John Candy, you want to hug them. They seem like they're family. Mrs. Doubtfire. It's a scary movie underneath. I remember in high school I did something for film class where we had to make a horror movie out of something that wasn't. And mine was Mrs. Doubtfire. It was too simple. I think there was already trailers online doing it, but I just figured it was so easy to do that, because you watch the movie and all you can think about is how fucked up it really is, that he's going out of his way to dress as a woman to see his kids because he has been such a deadbeat father. It is just, it's bonkers. Super bad. We all had these types of experiences in high school. I mean, I'm saying I'm not sure if you all did. I know I did. A lot of this was my high school life, especially watching porn in the basement and getting drunk, not going, going to parties and stuff for sure, but my friends and I just rather hang out in our group of 3 or 4. That was kind of how we did it instead. Parties were alright, it's just, why not hang out with your buddies and get fucked up and play video games kind of like they do, and it kind of gives me nostalgia. Even though I was in high school 6, 7, 8 years after this came out, I still feel very nostalgic for that time. Pineapple Express. It's one of the only movies where I really don't hate Seth Rogen. There's probably 3 or 4 of those where I don't hate him. I went through a phase in high school where he was the funniest guy to me. You know, obviously when you're a teenager or a kid, your taste is kind of not adult, per se. And I thought he was hilarious because that was the demographic he was going for, dumb teenagers. But this still holds up. James Franco's hilarious in this. I just think it's a straight up funny movie. If you smoke weed, like I do, this is relatable, funny, and you can kind of see where everybody's coming from in the movie a little bit because they're all paranoid and baked, and it's hilarious. Knocked Up, another Seth Rogen movie where I don't hate him. This one in particular, mostly because Paul Rudd's in it, and anything with Paul Rudd, sign me up. I think he's hilarious, and he's just one of those actors where he's in it, I'm interested. So this instantly, made me interested. He was so good they had to make a sequel called This Is 40, which if you've seen it, it's not as good. It's alright. Not probably ever buying that on Blu-ray, but this original one, Katherine Heigl's actually not hateable. Like, this movie does things that I didn't think were possible. It makes Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl likable. Shocking. But that's when Judd Apatow was just knocking dingers out of the park every time. 22 and 21 Jump Street. Big part of my childhood. I remember convincing my dad to bring me and my friend to see 21 Jump Street, and as soon as we got in the car and dropped my friend off, he's like, I feel so bad. I should not have brought you to see that. Best moment of my life up to that point. 10-year-old me seeing all of that was just glorious, especially in the theater. And then 22 Jump Street, first movie I ever snuck into underage. So it was one of the big experiences for both of these movies for me. And I just enjoy them in general. I think they're funny movies, especially the first one. And I'm sure there was a lot of fear from the fans of the TV show when those were being announced. You have like a comedy being made of a show that wasn't really a comedy, and it turned out pretty damn good. Tropic Thunder. Damn good comedy. This is Ben Stiller at his best. I love Ben Stiller, I always have. And I'm kind of sad that he's kind of stepped away in the last 5 to 10 years. He hasn't really made as much, which just, it sucks. It sucks, because he's a good director, and his comedies are always fucking hilarious. And this will probably be one of those comedies that will stand the test of time. You've got a few each generation, or not every 10 years, so every decade. And this is one of those ones from the 2000s, because 2008, people will remember this. And Tom Cruise, hilarious in this. You almost don't even recognize him. And Simple Jack, hilarious character. Wet Hot American Summer. Oh, one of my favorite movies. I hate myself so much for not putting this in my top 50 favorite movies of all time. This just slipped my mind. I guess because I didn't own it at the time. it just went over my head and I didn't even think about it. But this is easily in my top 50, probably top 20. I've rewatched this an unhealthy amount of times. I just stumbled upon this on Netflix one day. In high school it had to be by now, because it's been a while, and the humor is so on my level. You know, this is exactly what I want from a comedy. It's like it read my brain. Same with the TV show. I think the show is even funnier than this, which is controversial to say maybe. If you're a fan of Wet Hot American Summer, I think the prequel show is one of the funniest things ever made, and I love it. I love everybody involved with it. Clerks 2 and Zack and Miri, which they just call Zack and Miri now, but it really is Zack and Miri Make a Porno. They couldn't sell it otherwise, and there was a bunch of marketing issues, and I'd say the big reason this movie didn't make any money to begin with was that very reason. People did not know what to think of it. It has porn in the title, so they were kind of scared to go. But I think it's another decent Seth Rogen movie, and Craig Robinson steals the show, man. Like, it's one of those roles, I will never forget it. Me and my dad still quote some of the lines that he throws around in that movie. Here's your copy. White. Clerks 2 is one of my favorite comedies as well. Kevin Smith went through a phase where he just made some great movies, and then he just stopped. He just started making garbage. And Clerks 2, I'd even throw Zack and Miri in there for me. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't do that. I would. But Clerks, and Clerks 2 in particular, Randall is one of my favorite characters ever, and I could just watch a 7-hour movie with Randall doing everyday tasks that people would consider boring, but I could watch him just going to the mall, taking a walk, because you'd always find a way to piss people off. That's just Randall's specialty, and I love it. The Truman Show, scary-ass movie. I don't know why I have it in my comedy section. I guess there's comedy in it. It's funny in some parts, but it's almost, you're laughing at how insane that it is that people are all kind of signed up to fuck this guy's life over and film it. It's terrifying, you know, and it makes you wonder sometimes when you have a bunch of shit happen to you that doesn't feel right. It's like, is this my Truman Show moment? Is there a camera? You know, and then you start to feel insane, but it's a terrifying movie, great movie, and Ed Harris, man, he's one of my favorite actors. Liar Liar, grew up on this, watched this so many fucking times. I could watch this right now, to be honest. One of those comedies that it's just got like timeless rewatchability, where I could just continuously rewatch this. Scene where he beats himself up, that's like comedy gold, you know, like physical comedy gold. Like John Ritter. Dumb and Dumber. The unrated version, which I prefer the rated. It sounds insane. It's the only time I'll ever say that. The unrated stuff is just kind of nasty. Like, it shows the hork in the burger, and it shows the thong that Seabass was wearing. It's like, these things aren't really necessary. They're not funny. You kind of got what they were getting at with not showing them. Sometimes less is more, is what I'm saying. But Dumb and Dumber is one of my favorite comedies ever, and another movie I quote all the damn time with people who have seen it. The Mask, Jim Carrey. I'm not a huge fan of this anymore, but as a kid I watched this so many times that I pretty much ran my DVD out. I didn't even know that was possible. My DVD stopped working because of how many times I watched that thing. I'd come home from school, put some my popcorn in the microwave, and then bada boom. Me, Myself, and Irene, which is the reason this was purchased, and Shallow Hal, which was just kind of like, well, I don't mind Shallow Hal. I don't like either of the actors in it. I don't think Jack Black's as likable as he comes across, and I don't think Gwyneth Paltrow is likable whatsoever. But the movie itself's okay, and Jason Alexander kind of saves it. In Me, Myself, and Irene's case, one of Jim Carrey's better movies, and one of the Fairley Brothers' better movies, period. And it's good for some laughs. You want to laugh? Put that in. It'll make you fucking laugh. Make your stomach hurt. You're going to laugh so hard. Toy Story 1 to 3. I don't really want to pull these out, but... So, first one, it's not my favorite. It's the best. The second one was always my favorite. Will always be. And the third one, I'm going to be honest with you, I've only seen it like once. And I remember stuff, but Not enough to sit here and tell you an entire plot synopsis. I need to rewatch is what I'm saying. I kind of bought it just for the first two, and the third one was just kind of there. I think that was only $20 or something. $20 for 3 Blu-rays seems like a pretty good deal, especially considering in Canada, if you want to just buy a single Toy Story, they're $20 each. Finding Nemo. Just thinking about this. Last night, I was having an anxious moment, and I was thinking, how can I just relax? And I put clips on from Finding Nemo. And it really helped just ground me, bring me back to being a kid again with my grandma, watching this. Just a bowl of cheesies and just chilling out. This is just a childhood staple, man. And it's so sad that Disney has gone and shit all over their brand. Because stuff like this, it really makes my childhood. It really did. This is the kind of stuff that you just, it's so sad. Toy Story's in that too. And The Incredibles, my favorite animated movie ever made, bar none. I don't think anything even comes close. This does everything right for me. It's a comedy, it's an action movie, it's a family drama, it's a character study, it's everything you want from a movie. It is not a kid's movie. I mean, kids can watch it, and kids will like it because the action, but the heart of it, it is a story about a man who is coming to grips with getting older and getting a second chance. And it's just a really good story. Ratatouille. I need to rewatch this. I've seen it a few times. I didn't love it when I was growing up. This was never one of my favorite Pixar movies. But I can respect people who have this in their top 3. You know, I can respect that. It's a good movie. Cars. I love Cars. And I can see why some of the older generation, you know, people who are 10 years older than me, 15 years older, who grew up with Toy Story and Monsters, Inc., maybe don't love this as much. Because it's just kind of... It's the same movie as Doc Hollywood, is what I want to say. If you've seen Doc Hollywood, it's the exact same movie. And, I mean, they kind of got away with stealing an entire plot. And changing a few things, of course. But go watch Doc Hollywood, and it's the same movie. I think this is just a great kids movie. It's a great movie, period. It's got a good soundtrack, too. Monsters, Inc. We're just talking about this. Man, does this movie make me happy. This is just perfect. It's a perfect casting, too. Billy Crystal and John Goodman. You wouldn't think they'd fit these roles that well, but they are the perfect choices, and especially fucking John Goodman. Like John Goodman, off the charts, one of my favorite actors, period. Monsters University was a worthy sequel. I didn't see this when it first came out. I think I waited a year or so, and I was shocked that I liked it as much as I did. I rewatched this because it's back when you rented movies. I know, it sounds like an ancient time now when you say it out loud. But I watched this 4 times in the week that we rented this. I really liked it. And I still I rewatch it from time to time. Wreck-It Ralph. This came out at the perfect time of my life. I was a 12-year-old, maybe 11. I think 11. And gaming was my life at that time. So this was everything I needed from an animated movie. Again, Disney, when they made magical movies that made you feel something. Bring me back to my childhood. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I already showed the second one, which I have on a separate shelf because I don't think it's worthy of being with my animated movies. I only put good ones together. And this is a good movie, in my opinion. And I think this is a Columbia Pictures animated movie, which they don't do very many of those. So it's a shock. It is Columbia. So it's a shock that this was actually as good as it is. Bill Hader, I'm not a huge fan. He's good in this. And Flint Lockwood. What are you doing over there, Flint Lockwood? Kung Fu Panda. I don't even know how I got my hands on. I don't know why I bought this. I had like $5 to $10 on me one day, and I'm so impulsive. If I see a Blu-ray that I might even have a slight chance at rewatching, I just buy it. And it was brand new. I was like, yeah. And I have not rewatched it once. I never loved it. Again, probably controversial to say something like that out loud, but I was never a huge Kung Fu Panda fan. Madagascar 3. What is it? Europe's Most Wanted. I enjoy some stuff about this, but for me, Madagascar lives and dies with the first one. That's the first and only one I ever decide on putting in. Second and third one are good. You know, second one has some good stuff. Alake! But the first one, really, the heart of it all, is the best one. And there's a reason people like it so much. It's because it's the best one. Megamind. It's a love it or hate it type movie. I have plenty of friends that hated this growing up, and plenty of friends that I would quote this with. And I just think I don't know. It's one of those movies I think Will Ferrell's pretty damn funny in. Brad Pitt's hilarious in the scenes he's in. I just think it's a good movie. Ice Age. My childhood in a movie right here. I've been saying that a lot, but this is my childhood section of just movies I grew up obsessed with. I put this in the other day, and I only got like 20 minutes in before falling asleep. This is my good night movie, and the nostalgia that this gave me the shot in the arm with was crazy. I used to watch the opening scene of this on loop, and my mom even mentioned to me like last week, you used to laugh at that scrat a lot. Yes, I did. So we've got the Shrek 1 to 4 here. I could have bought Shrek individually many times, but I always wanted this 4-pack. I love these cases so much, and I just think Shrek's one of those movies that if I'm gonna get it, I'm going all out. I waited years and years. I think I only got these this year, 6-7 months ago, and I had it on DVD, the first one, and the rest have always been on Netflix for the most part. But I finally felt like I had to go out of my way to buy Shrek, the complete set, because I'm a huge Shrek fan, especially the first two in particular. Love Shrek. Jingle All the Way. One of my biggest obsessions growing up. I just could not stop watching this movie. This was my introduction to Arnold, funny enough. And it wasn't Terminator, which I did watch very young at 4 or 5, but this at 2, I think, was when I started watching this. So this was what I saw Arnold in, and the Mandela effect that kicks in when I watch this, because growing up, I could have swore he had an American accent. I don't remember him talking like this at all. You'd think that would stick out to you as a 2 or 3-year-old. And rewatching it, I remember I was 6 or 7. I was like, he had a fucking German accent the whole time. A Christmas Story. I loved it as a kid, but as I get older, I have no urge to put this in. I guess I've seen it enough. It's one of those that I guess I've already just kind of expired. And I kind of own it now for my kids when I get older, if I have kids. It's a good kids movie. My parents had never seen it, really, so I had to go out of my own way to watch that one as a kid. A Christmas Vacation. My favorite Christmas movie, probably. It's if we're going straight Christmas movie and we're not going to be hipsters and say Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, it's probably my favorite. Definitely the funniest. Chevy Chase was born to play Clark Griswold, and he does a damn good job of it. And he reminds me a hell of a lot of my grandfather in this as the character. So I guess it just hits home even more for me because it's like I'm watching somebody I know. And I think it's just a perfect cast. They always find a way to recast the family in a good way around him and Beverly D'Angelo, who I think have great chemistry as a couple. Home Alone 2, the better Home Alone. Let's stop lying to ourselves. The first one's good. I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you the first one is not good. I think both Home Alones are really good in their own way. But the second one is just a little better. It is. Don't lie to yourself. You always rewatch the second one more, and I know. You're lying if you're saying you watch the first one more. Dazed and Confused. My favorite fucking sit-around movie ever. It's one of my favorite things ever made. It really is, on this planet. Not even just movies. This is just an embodiment of what a movie's supposed to be. You're supposed to be if you're watching a movie from the 70s, you're supposed to be time traveling back to that very moment to feel exactly what these characters are feeling. And this movie does that in spades to the point where you almost forget you're even watching a movie sometimes and you feel like you're watching real people. It's so good. It's so good. This is perfect. I don't say that about too many movies. This movie's perfect. Raising Arizona. One of my favorite comedies, for sure. And Nicolas Cage. You want to talk about the range this guy has? When people say he can't act, you gotta watch Raising Arizona. He makes me laugh to the point where my ribs hurt in this movie. Like, there's some scenes where I straight up can't stop laughing. And I didn't think that would ever happen because of his comedic acting. Yeah, his normal acting makes me laugh enough. But his comedic acting in this is great. And Holly Hunter. You want to talk about a great performance. Great actress. Great performance from both of them. And John Goodman again. John Goodman again. He steals the damn show. Fargo. I love Fargo. But this is not as rewatchable for me. I love Fargo, but it's one of those that I want to rewatch maybe once a year. I could not put this in once every couple of months or something. It needs time to kind of fester. I like to forget some of it so I can go back in and kind of, oh, so I forgot that scene was there. I love Fargo, though. I really do. Don't you know, the weird little fella. The Marlboro Man. Big Lebowski. I mean, it's really tough to pick between this, Fargo, or Raising Arizona for my favorite Coen Brothers movie. It really is. Like, it's like picking Children and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which I'm gonna get my hands on eventually. I love that movie too. They made constant amazing movies for 10 years there, maybe even 15, where it was like everything they touched just turned to gold. Big Lebowski is one of those movies. I've seen a lot of people say, it's not that funny, and what are you watching? What movie did you watch? Because it's the little intricacies about this that are funny. Like, I'm sure people find the outright stuff funny, like the ferret and stuff, but Walter as a character is one of the funniest things ever. He just straight up is. Like, that's what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass, Larry. Tommy Boy. It's the knockoff version of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but it's also kind of a different movie altogether. I can't really even put this movie into words. Rob Lowe is really good in this, though. He's the standout. Every time I watch this, I always forget how good he is as the straight man, kind of. I mean, David Spade's also the straight man, but Rob Lowe plays so well opposite to Chris Farley in the few scenes they have when he's dancing and he's spraying them and stuff. Some of the best scenes in comedy for me. And Chris Farley, another guy who died way too soon. Like, we were robbed of some great content from this guy. His Saturday Night Live days, he's left us with some gold for sure, and a few good movies and performances, more as bit parts. And this is really the only movie he was in where he was a standout as the main character, which is so sad. Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day. This is what Maple Leaf fans out there are living every day and every year. Sorry to poke fun at you, Maple Leaf fans, but it really is. There's some people out there who live in Groundhog Day in terms of, let's just keep going at it with the same thing and expect different results. And that's what Groundhog Day is. And we really don't know how long he is in Groundhog Day, but it's estimated it was thousands of years. Some people have estimated. He was there for such a long time that it got to the point where he knew everybody's everything. It is a really dark movie when you start going down that rabbit hole. Other than that, it's a really good comedy, obviously, and it's a good movie. Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know how the hell and why they're making another one, especially all these years later. They had 30 years to make a sequel, and they decided, now we're going to make a fourth one. You didn't decide to make one in, 2004. You shouldn't have decided to make one now. Really stupid, and I love this movie. I think the second one's good too, Tony Scott, but the third one obviously has its problems. We all know that, the John Landis one. Oh, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, haha. What are you doing, Mr. Han? I saw the globe right there. One of my favorite movies ever, and again, I was robbed of not seeing this as a kid. My dad has never seen this. My parents have never seen this movie. So I had to go out of my own way to grow up and watch movies, and when I stumbled upon this, I just felt so dumb, because I knew this would be the movie. Like a Weird Science, which I'll talk about. One of those types where I would have just rewatched this on loop and loop and loop and loop over and over and over and over. Everybody in this is hilarious and good at what they're doing. Damone's a great character. Brad. I just love the cast. And Sean Penn, another guy with great range. He's funny. He's damn scary in some movies, and he's just a good actor in other things. Austin Powers trilogy. I love the first two, and the third one is just kind of dog shit, if I'm going to be honest with you. Tried rewatching that one, and it was just kind of like, ooh. First two are still hilarious, especially the first one. Great comedy. It's when Mike Myers is just killing it every movie. It's a damn shame that guy just vanished. Goonies. You want to talk about childhood movies that made me who I am? I still have dreams about being a Goonie. I still have dreams about time traveling is like back into my 12-year-old body and being a Goonie. That's how badly I wanted to be part of this group as a kid. You know, I had a lot of friends growing up and stuff, but it was never this. My friends never had my interests. I always had to kind of get interested in what they were in. They all love each other and have the same interests, and I always wanted a friend group like that. And I think it's just a great Richard Donner movie, and Spielberg again just doing his thing. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I miss so many school days because of this movie. Especially the clammy hands, you lick your palms. You learn from the best, and this is one of those from the best type movies. It taught me a lot about life in general, and Cameron in this movie, one of my favorite characters. I could watch this over and over. John Hughes, man, in the 80s, he just did everything right. Another John Hughes movie right here. It is written by him, The Great Outdoors. If you haven't seen this, please go watch this. Two Canadian legends right there of comedy. It's one of my favorite comedies ever made. I grew up just loving it. Weird Science. Man. If I could tell you all the shit that I've seen this so many times, inside and out, and not to mention my friend and I, when we were 12 years old, decided we were going to build our own doll. We did a bunch of research online. We're going to build our own woman. We got a doll. We tried hooking it up, and nothing happened, and then we gave up. So that was the end of that. But we really attempted to make a woman when we were 11 or 12 years old because of this movie. We wanted our own Kelly LeBrock. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This is like a perfect comedy, family movie, all of it shoved into one. I watch this every Thanksgiving, and even sometimes around Christmas. It's just a great feel-good movie, and the ending makes you cry every time. It's one of those where it just hits you right in the heart. Uncle Buck. This was never my favorite John Candy comedy, but I still appreciate it for what it is. And this was the first movie Macaulay Culkin that really broke out in. So, I mean, it's big for that. We got Kevin McAllister because of that. Weekend at Bernie's. Top 5 comedy for me, for sure. I can't stop laughing when I watch this. Like, I just remember falling on the ground. I was laughing so hard when I first saw this. And the soundtrack makes you feel good. Characters are funny. Plot is just hilarious. And you ever just want to feel good, you gotta watch Weekend at Bern. The World's End. So this is the third of the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy. I just showed this to my girlfriend the other day, and even she liked it, so I was happy. Like, yay! She likes a few movies I like, and I saw this so many times in high school. I went through a phase where I just kept home and watched this all the damn time. I love the first half. Like the first 40 minutes where there's just the buddies hanging out, getting drunk, talking about life and stuff. I could have taken 3 hours of that. Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. So the other two of the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy. And I always think Hot Fuzz is my favorite. And I like Catching Them Killers then. But Shaun of the Dead, every time I watch it, always gives a good argument. There's some stuff in this. Pete, I said leave him alone! Each movie's quotable in its own right, and I didn't mention how great Simon Pegg is in each 3 movies. Gary King, it's one of my favorite characters. I don't want to be sober! And Sean, and you've got, why am I not remembering his name? Nicholas Angel. Man, I drew a blank there. So we've got 3 great characters. Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, collaboration are always good. So that is that shelf, and that is that part of the video, or collection I should say, and I'll be back in a few days to talk about the other shelves. So take care.